I have to be honest with you. When I first saw the reading list for this deep dive, I had a moment of, well, hesitation.
Hesitation. Really, you're usually the one begging for more source material.
I know, but it's Psalm 23. It feels like the live, laugh, love of the Bible, you know?
Ah, I see.
It's on cross-stitched pillows at my grandma's house. It's on funeral programs. It's on coffee mugs. It feels so familiar that it's almost, I don't know, flavorless?
Like plain oatmeal.
Exactly. It's comfort food, sure, but is there really anything new to find there? I was a little worried we'd spend 40 minutes talking about fluffy clouds and gentle streams.
And that is exactly the trap.
Yeah.
That's what most of us do. We think of it as this soft, sentimental, fuzzy blanket of a poem.
Right.
But when you actually dig into the sources, especially Phillip Keller's book, A Shepherd Looks at Psalm 23,
Yeah.
you realize we've been reading it with this very sanitized, very Western filter.
Which is why we're here. Because looking at your notes, the reality behind this poem, it isn't soft at all.
Not even close.
It's incredibly gritty. It's full of dirt, parasites, predators, and some, frankly, terrifying geography.
It is.
Yeah.
And the reason we have to strip away that sentimental varnish
Yeah.
is that if you don't get the agricultural reality, the blood and the dirt of sheep ranching, you actually miss the theological power.
And Keller's the guy to do it.
He is. He's writing this as a real-life sheep rancher in East Africa. I mean, this is a man who has managed land, battled wolves, dug irrigation ditches.
So he's not some theologian in an ivory tower. He's a guy with mud on his boots.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that perspective, it just changes everything, which is why today we're not just analyzing a poem. We have a very specific mission.
Right.
We want to answer a really practical question. How should the reality of Jesus being my shepherd change three specific things? How I feel, that's our emotional regulation.
Okay.
How I think so, our mental frameworks. And then how I live my day-to-day habits.
Moving it from poetry to practice.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
But to get there, we have to start with a little bit of an ego blow.
I noticed that. The central tension of this whole deep dive really seems to be about the nature of the sheep.
Yes. The entire premise of the psalm, and this is just biological reality, is that sheep are helpless. They are incredibly prone to what Keller bluntly calls stupidity, and they are easily terrified.
So the shepherd is literally the only thing standing between them and, well, immediate death.
The only thing... So to understand the manager, the shepherd, we have to look at the world through the eyes of the livestock.
Let's do it. Let's jump into the first segment, verse 1. The Lord is my shepherd.
This is the foundational confession. Everything else hangs on this one statement. If this isn't true for you, the rest of the psalm is just wishful thinking.
And Keller points out the key word isn't just shepherd.
No. It's the word my.
The Lord is my shepherd.
Correct. It's not the Lord is a shepherd. That's just a general observation, a theological fact.
It's not his job description.
No. It's a statement of ownership. It signifies a covenant relationship. In the world of sheep ranching, a sheep's welfare depends entirely on the character of the man who owns it.
Keller tells that story in the book about his neighbor's farm, which I thought was so powerful.
It's a fantastic illustration. He describes looking over the fence. On his side of the fence, the sheep are flourishing. They're healthy, they're calm.
Right.
But right next door, under a different owner, the sheep are just a mess. They're scrawny, struggling, diseased, terrified. And why?
Because the owner was indifferent.
Totally indifferent. He didn't want to put in the work. He let the land go to ruin. He didn't check the animals for parasites. He just didn't care.
So the sheep's condition is a direct reflection of the manager's competence.
Exactly. So when you, as a believer, say, the Lord is my shepherd, you're effectively saying, I've been bought with a price. I'm not a free agent. I am the property of a good manager.
That's a tough pill for modern people to swallow, isn't it? We love our autonomy.
Oh, absolutely.
We want to be the captain of our own soul. We want to be the CEO of our own lives.
And right there, that's the how we think application, straight out of the gate. To say this verse is to renounce self-rule. It's a confession of absolute sovereignty.
You're admitting you're bad at managing your own life?
You're admitting that if you were left to yourself, you'd end up just like the neighbor's sheep, scrawny and sick.
Yeah.
You're handing the keys over to someone else.
Which flows directly into the second half of that verse. I shall not want. Now, we have to unpack this because in modern English, that sounds like.
I get whatever I want.
Right. Especially in our consumer culture. If I'm a prosperity gospel type, I hear, I'm getting that Ferrari.
And if you're more of a stoic, you might hear, I shouldn't have any desires at all.
Yeah, I shouldn't want the Ferrari. But neither is quite right, is it?
No, not in the agricultural context. I shall not want translates much closer to I shall not lack.
I shall not lack what?
Expert care and management. It's not the absence of desire, it's the absence of any unmet essential need.
There was a connection here in the research that just blew my mind. Keller makes the point that if a sheep is wanting, if it's starving or sick, it's actually a PR nightmare for the shepherd.
It is. Think about it. A scrawny sheep is a billboard for a bad shepherd. It brings shame to the owner. It tells every single person who passes by, this manager doesn't know what he's doing.
So our contentment is actually tied to the shepherd's honor?
That's the paradigm shift. It's a massive one. If we are constantly in a state of panic or acting like we've been shortchanged by life or, complaining that we don't have enough,
We're basically criticizing the manager's competence to the rest of the world.
we are slandering his reputation.
Wow. That completely flips the script.
Contentment isn't just about me feeling good. It's about upholding the reputation of the owner.
It's the deep breath of the soul that says, the owner knows what he is doing, even if I don't see the full picture yet. It's an act of trust in his competence.
Okay, so that's the foundation. We are owned, and the owner is competent. Now we move to verse 2. He makes me lie down in green pastures. This sounds like the most peaceful, serene image in all of literature, right? A fluffy sheep napping in tall grass.
It does. It sounds easy.
But biologically, getting a sheep to lie down is a massive engineering project.
This was my favorite part of the source material because it just completely debunks the easy nature of this verse. Sheep are neurotic creatures.
They are incredibly timid. Keller explains that sheep will refuse to lie down unless 4 very specific conditions are met at the same time.
Not just 1 or 2, all 4.
All 4. If even one is missing, they will stay on their feet and pace. They are biologically incapable of relaxing if these conditions aren't perfect.
Let's walk through these 4 requirements because I think they map so perfectly to our own modern anxiety. What's the first one?
The first is freedom from fear. Sheep are terrified of everything. A rustling bush, a shadow, the hint of a jackal in the distance. They have a mob instinct.
Where if one runs, they all run.
Yep, often without even knowing why. And they can't self-soothe. They can't tell themselves, oh, that was just the wind.
You can't reason with a sheep.
No. The only thing that calms their panic is the physical presence of the shepherd. They need to see him. They need to know he's there in the field. When the master is visible, the panic just subsides. Because they know he is the defense.
That is such a powerful image for anxiety, isn't it? We can't always think our way out of fear, but just the awareness of the presence, that can make all the difference. What's the second condition?
Freedom from friction. This is all about the social dynamic of the flock. Sheep have a literal pecking order, or I guess a budding order.
Like office politics.
Very much like office politics. The older, stronger sheep will bully the younger ones to get the best tufts of grass. They're constantly butting heads, shoving each other around. It's all rivalry and status seeking.
And you can't relax if you're worried about getting headbutted by the guy next to you.
Exactly. You can't sleep if you think your neighbor is about to attack you.
So how does the shepherd solve that? Does he, send them to their rooms?
Sometimes he might separate them, but usually it's just his presence again. Keller notes that when the shepherd walks into the middle of the flock, all the rivalry just stops.
Why?
The sheep stop looking at their rival and they start looking at the master.
Hmm.
The vertical relationship solves the horizontal conflict. The budding order just dissolves because everyone is focused on the boss.
Okay, that's 2. What's number 3?
Freedom from flies. We're going to do a much deeper dive on parasites later because it's so important. But for now, just know that sheep are constantly pestered by nose flies, warble flies, ticks, you name it.
And if they're being bitten?
They can't lie down. They'll stomp, run in circles, shake their heads. They're miserable. The shepherd has to apply the repellent. He has to treat the irritation.
And the 4th one?
Freedom from famine. Simple, really. A hungry sheep won't lie down. It will just keep searching for food. And this is where the green pastures part is so key. In the rocky terrain of Judea, green pastures aren't natural.
They don't just happen.
No way. The shepherd has to create them. He has to clear the rocks, dig irrigation channels, pull the poisonous weeds, and cultivate the land. Green pastures are the result of backbreaking labor.
So when the psalm says, he makes me lie down, it doesn't mean he forces them.
No, not at all.
It means he creates the environment where rest is even possible in the first place.
That's it, exactly. Rest is produced by the shepherd's hard work. He deals with the predators, he manages the rivalries, he treats the pests, and he provides the food.
That really changes the how we live part for me. I think I often try to manufacture my own spiritual rest. I try to force myself to relax. I download a meditation app or book a vacation.
Right.
But this suggests that if I'm anxious, that's the fear, or if I'm in conflict with people, that's the friction. I literally cannot lie down spiritually.
And that connects right into the New Testament. When Jesus says in Matthew 11, "Come to me, and I will give you rest," he's not offering a passive nap.
He's offering active shepherding.
Yes, he's offering to handle the fear, the friction, and the famine so that you can actually experience shalom. You can't produce this rest on your own. It is a gift of his management.
It's active management, not just a mood. Okay, let's move to verse 3. This is where things get a little dark, literally. He restores my soul.
This is one of Keller's most famous and I think most powerful insights. In English, "restores my soul" sounds very poetic.
Yeah, like refreshing your spirit with a cup of tea after a hard day.
Right, but in shepherd language, it refers to a very specific, very life-threatening crisis. The cast sheep.
Can you describe this for us? Because the visual is, well, it's pathetic, honestly, but it's also terrifying.
It really is.
Yeah.
A cast sheep is a sheep that is rolled over on its back. Maybe it was trying to get comfortable in a little hollow in the ground. It stretches out, relaxes, and just rolls a little too far.
And they can't get up.
They can't get up. Because of their high center of gravity and all that heavy wool, once they are flat on their back, they're stuck.
Like a turtle.
Like a turtle, but much more dangerous. Their legs start flailing in the air, they're frantic, and as they struggle, gases build up in their room in their stomach.
Oh, wow.
Because they're upside down, they can't belch to get the gas out. This cuts off blood circulation to their legs and their head. In hot weather, a cast sheep can die in a matter of hours.
And on top of that, they're basically a buffet for predators.
An open invitation. A buzzard or a coyote sees a cast sheep as the easiest meal they'll get all week. The sheep is completely defenseless. Its legs are just waving in the air, signaling, "Dinner is served."
So when David says, he restores my soul, he's using the Hebrew word shove.
Which can mean to turn back or to set upright. He's talking about the shepherd finding a sheep that is upside down, helpless, near death, and flipping it back over.
So who gets cast? Is it the weak sheep?
Yeah.
The sick ones?
And that is the great irony. Keller points out it's often the fat, comfortable, or fleece-heavy sheep, the ones who seem to be doing the best.
Wow. Okay, let's unpack that analogy for a second.
I mean, it's the believer who is fat with success,
Yeah.
or maybe just really comfortable in their life, who decides to settle down in a soft spot. They get a little too comfortable, a little complacent.
I've got this handled.
Exactly. And then suddenly they find themselves in a spiritual depression or a sin pattern that they cannot get out of on their own. They're stuck on their back.
And the really scary part is that a sheep cannot uncast itself. This is not a DIY project.
No. No amount of willpower flips that sheep back over. If the shepherd doesn't find it, the sheep dies. Period.
What does the rescue look like?
It's tender. Keller describes finding a cast sheep. He doesn't come screaming at it, for being stupid. He runs to it. He lifts it up, but, and this part is crucial, the sheep is often so numb from the lack of circulation that it can't even stand.
Its legs don't work.
They don't. So the shepherd has to get down and rub its limbs to restore the circulation. He has to hold it, steady it, until it gains its equilibrium again.
That really changes how we should feel about spiritual backsliding, doesn't it? I think we often view it with just pure guilt. I'm such a mess. God must be so sick of me.
But this paints it as a state of helplessness that requires a rescue mission. It creates this tremendous sense of affection. The shepherd doesn't walk up and kick the cast sheep for being stupid. He runs to it because he doesn't want to lose his investment. He restores it because he loves it.
That's a huge shift in perspective. From shame to just gratitude. Okay, let's move on. Verse 4. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death.
Or Zalmavet in the Hebrew.
Zalmavet, it sounds intense.
It means deep darkness or shadow of death.
But notice the change in the psalm here. It's subtle, but it is the most important grammatical shift in the whole text.
Okay, what's the shift?
In the first 3 verses, David speaks about God. He leads me, he makes me lie down, he restores me. It's all third person.
Right.
But as soon as he enters the valley, the pronouns change.
For you were with me? Exactly. He starts speaking to God. The intimacy increases in the danger. We stop talking theology about God, and we start talking to the person. The darkness forces us closer to the shepherd's side.
Keller also has this really interesting geographic insight here. He says the valley isn't a dead end. It's not a place you go to die.
Right. In good sheep management, as the seasons change, you move the sheep to the high summer ranges. the tablelands. The best grazing is up high.
And to get to the top of the mountain.
You don't go over the jagged, dangerous peaks. That's too hard for the flock. You take the path of least resistance, which is always up through the valleys and the canyons.
And that's where the water is.
That's where the water is. The valleys have the streams. The valleys often have the best forage on the route because the high canyon walls protect it from the scorching sun. So the shepherd intentionally leads them into the darkness, into the canyon where the sun might be blocked out.
Not to punish them.
No, but because it's the best, safest route to get to the high ground.
So God leads us into valleys, not just out of them. That's a tough concept, but it makes so much sense if the goal is the high country.
It totally reframes suffering. The valley is a hallway, not a destination. It's the route to the summit. You can't get to the mountaintop without going through the valley.
And in that valley, David says he has these tools. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. I always thought those were just two poetic words for the same walking stick.
They're very different tools with very different purposes. The rod is a club. It's a weapon.
Okay.
It was a heavy piece of hardwood, often taken from the root of a sapling, with a big knob on the end. Sometimes it even embed nails or bits of metal in it.
So what's it for?
Two things. Defense against predators, literally beating off a wolf or a lion, and discipline.
Discipline.
Well, if a sheep was wandering off toward a poisonous plant or getting too close to the edge of a cliff, the shepherd would hurl the rod through the air. And Keller says these guys were incredibly accurate. The rod would land right in front of the sheep's nose with a thud, or sometimes even hit the sheep in the flank, just to startle it back to safety.
So the rod represents God's authority, his power.
His authority, his power, his word. It's the boundary line. And it comforts us because we know the shepherd has the power to protect us from our enemies, but also the authority to stop us from destroying ourselves. It's the comfort of knowing he won't let me go too far off the path.
And the staff.
The staff is the classic shepherd's crook. Long, slender, with that hook at the end. It's a tool of compassion.
How so?
If a newborn lamb gets separated from its mother, the shepherd uses the crook of the staff to gently lift it and bring it back, without getting his human scent all over it. If a sheep is stuck in a thicket, he uses the hook to gently pull it free. He uses it to draw the sheep close to him.
So it represents intimacy, gentleness.
Intimacy, the Holy Spirit, the long-suffering kindness of God, and we find comfort in both. We need the rod of God's power and truth, and we need the staff of his gentle guidance. A shepherd with only a rod is a tyrant. A shepherd with only a staff is weak. The good shepherd uses both perfectly.
I love that balance. Okay, verse 5. You anoint my head with oil. This is where we get back to the gross stuff. Why do we need oil on our heads?
2 words, noseflies.
Go on. I felt itchy just reading this part in the book.
In the summer, noseflies are the absolute scourge of the flock. They just buzz around the sheep's head, constantly trying to lay their eggs in the moist mucous membranes of the sheep's nose.
And if they succeed?
If they succeed, the larvae hatch and, well, they burrow up into the sheep's nasal passages.
That is horrific.
It is intensely painful. Keller describes sheep driven to absolute madness. They'll run in circles, they'll stomp, they'll literally beat their heads against trees or rocks to try and stop the itching and the buzzing.
So they can't eat, they can't sleep.
They can't do anything. They lose weight rapidly. A flock plagued by noseflies is a flock in complete chaos.
So the anointing isn't some nice religious ceremony, it's medical.
It's an antidote. The shepherd mixes up a concoction. It was often olive oil, sulfur, and maybe some tar, and he smears it all over the sheep's nose and head.
And what happens then?
Immediate peace. The flies can't stand the stuff, so they can't land. The buzzing stops. The sheep puts its head down and starts to graze again. The madness ends. Just like that.
The application here for how we live is just so relatable. The flies aren't necessarily the big tragedies like the Valley of Death. They're the petty irritations.
The distractions, the nagging thoughts, the small frustrations of daily life, the traffic jam, the rude email, the worry about a bill, all the little things that buzz around our heads until we feel like we want to bang our head against a wall.
And the oil is the Holy Spirit.
It's the fresh anointing of the Spirit that brings peace to the mind. And Keller argues we need a fresh application daily. You can't run on yesterday's oil. When those irritations start buzzing, we need the touch of the shepherd to shield our minds so we can focus again.
That flows right into the next image. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. I always pictured a big banquet hall with, goblins watching from the windows.
We all do. But it's still agricultural. The table refers to the high mountain plateaus, the mesas or tablelands, where the sheep graze in the summer.
Oh, they're flat-top mountains, a tableland.
Exactly. So preparing the table means getting that high pasture ready for the flock.
What does that involve?
The shepherd doesn't just wander up there with the sheep and hope for the best. He goes up weeks in advance by himself. He surveys the land. He has to clear out poisonous weeds. Keller talks about how some specific plants can kill a sheep in minutes if it eats them.
So he has to dig them out by hand.
By hand. He has to check for wolf dens or bear tracks and drive the predators back. He prepares the entire ecosystem so the sheep can eat safely.
All while the enemies are still there.
They're still there. The wolves might still be watching from the rim of the canyon. They are in the presence of the enemies, but because the shepherd is there on watch and because he has prepared the ground, the sheep can graze with their heads down, totally at peace, ignoring the danger.
That is such a picture of vindication and focus. We can feast on peace while the spiritual battle is raging around us because the shepherd is on guard.
It's a defiant kind of rest. It says, I am safe here, not because the world is safe, but because my shepherd is present.
I love that. Okay, verse 6. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life.
And this brings us to the sheepdogs.
The sheepdogs. I don't remember any dogs.
It's Keller's beautiful analogy here. In a good flock, you often have sheepdogs that help herd and protect the sheep, usually from the rear. David says, goodness and mercy follow him. The Hebrew word there is radaf. It doesn't just mean to trail behind. It's an active word. It means to pursue, to chase down, almost like a hunter.
So God isn't just trailing behind us with goodness. He is actively hunting us down with it.
He is. Now think about what a flock of sheep leaves behind it.
A mess.
A mess. They can be destructive. They leave behind manure. They trample the grass. And we, as humans, we often leave a mess behind us, don't we? Sin, wreckage, hurt feelings, bad decisions.
We look back over our shoulder and just cringe at our past.
But the shepherd has two sheepdogs at the rear of the flock, goodness and mercy. And they follow behind us, cleaning up our mess, healing the land we've damaged, restoring what we've broken. We don't have to look back in fear of our past because we are being tailed by grace.
Wow. That is incredibly comforting. I'm just picturing these two border collies named Goodness and Mercy, just making sure I make it home.
And where is home? And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Which brings us to our final segment. We have to connect this all to Jesus. Because David wrote this about Yahweh, but then Jesus steps into the story and claims this title in a way that must have been just shocking.
It was. In John chapter 10, Jesus uses one of the great I am statements, ego eimi, in the Greek. He says, I am the good shepherd. He is explicitly, unmistakably claiming to be the Yahweh of Psalm 23.
But he adds a massive twist, doesn't he? In Psalm 23, the sheep walk through the valley of the shadow of death.
Right. They survive the valley. But in John 10, the good shepherd says something new. He says, the good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep.
The shepherd dies.
The shepherd dies. That is the ultimate upgrade to the psalm. In the Old Testament, the shepherd protects the sheep from death. In the gospel, the shepherd absorbs death for them. He takes the wolf's bite. He stands in the way of the rod of judgment that should have hit the wandering sheep, and he takes the blow himself.
And he also contrasts himself with the hireling.
Yes, the hired hand, the guy who's just doing it for a paycheck. When the wolf comes, the hireling runs. Why? Because he doesn't own the sheep. He has no skin in the game.
He sees the sheep as a commodity.
A disposable commodity. But the owner stays. And this brings us right back to the very first line of the psalm. The Lord is my shepherd. Our security is not based on our ability to be a smart sheep.
Which is good news because all the source material makes it abundantly clear we are stubborn, stupid sheep.
We are helpless. Our security is based entirely on the shepherd's commitment to his own investment. He bought us. He died for us. He will not walk away when things get tough because we belong to him.
That really lands. It takes all the pressure off. I don't have to be a perfect sheep. I just have to be his sheep.
Precisely.
So let's wrap this all up. We started with the mission. How does this change how we feel, think, and live? Let's just summarize those takeaways.
Okay. How we feel. We get to replace anxiety with the knowledge that the manager is competent. If I am feeling wanting or lacking, I am in a way questioning his management. If I am anxious, it's probably because I've taken my eyes off the shepherd's presence. We feel safe not because we are strong, but because he is near.
And how we think. We accept that we are own. We're not free agents. We have to renounce the right to self-rule, which is so countercultural. We learn to view our wants through the lens of his wisdom, not just our cravings. And we reframe the valleys as routes to the high ground, not dead ends.
Finally, how we live. We learn to accept both the rod of discipline and the oil of the Spirit. We recognize that friction with others and fear of our circumstances prevent us from resting, so we let the shepherd handle our battles. And when we find ourselves stuck on our backs, we stop panicking and wait for the rescue. We apply the oil of the Spirit to the daily irritations.
And there's one final thought I want to leave our listeners with. It's something that really struck me near the end of the research. The psalm ends with, "I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever."
The ultimate homecoming.
The ultimate homecoming. But think about it this way. This whole earthly life, the green pastures, the valleys, the tablelands, even the nose flies, it's all temporary practice.
Practice for what?
Practice for the eternal reality. We are learning how to be led right now so that we can be at home in the Father's house later. If we spend our whole lives resisting the shepherd, fighting his leading, then the house of the Lord will feel foreign and strange to us.
But if we learn to trust the rod and the staff here,
Then walking through the doors of eternity will just feel like coming home.
that's a profound thought. Are you living like a guest in the house, just passing through, or like a stranger who doesn't belong?
Exactly. Something to chew on. Keep grazing in the green pastures, everyone. We'll see you in the next deep dive.
Take care.